Hello, hello, hello. It's Stephanie here, and welcome to episode 87 of the Rent to Rent Success podcast. You're going to love today's story because it's a true life story of rent to rent success from an incredible guy who's achieved such a lot at such a very young age. I'm delighted to be joined today by Aslan Aziz Rahman, and he has got 6 HMOs. He's raised over £21,000. He's got a fantastic business, and he's going to tell his story about leaving university and lots of trials and tribulations to to reach the success that he's had today in rent to rent. And we're also going to talk about his future, where he's got his eye firmly on property development. So, welcome to the show, Aslan. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing amazing, actually. I had a brilliant day. Getting more deals, booking more viewings, increasing my activity output and all that. But yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, well, we met, I think, first on Instagram, but then you were in a clubhouse room with me, and I just loved your story. We usually do our clubhouse rooms on Thursday at 1 p.m., and you joined us as a moderator in one of those rooms and told your story about the success you've achieved. And I thought I would love to have you on the podcast as well, because I know that many people have fears about getting started, and hearing someone's actual true life story can really be inspiring for so many people. So I'd love it if, first of all, you could tell us a little bit more about you, Aslan.
Yeah, so a bit about my story. Firstly, my personal life. So I found out about property and the whole idea of like starting a business and investing when I was in my last year, sixth form. So I still remember the day, and I was revising my A-level exams that were coming up in the summer. I was in year 13 at the time. I was procrastinating on my phone, and I found a random property YouTube video, and from there it just catapulted. Like I watched so many videos. The next 6 months I was networking like crazy. I was reading books, and after sixth form I took a gap year. That's where a lot of the results came. After the gap year, I had 6 months of uni, and I then left. Throughout the time I was building the rent portfolio and gaining my knowledge, and also doing a bit of other stuff. I wasn't just doing rent. I had a few other businesses that failed, and but yeah, that's just the basics. Yeah.
Yeah, and what we haven't said is that you were studying medicine.
I was studying medicine at York, University of York. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a big deal to give up your medicine degree to pursue property.
Yeah, I mean, the reasoning behind it was like I wanted to be. I had an interest in medicine through sixth form, but that was because it was almost like I felt like I was almost slightly pushed into it by teachers and that, and then I actually took an interest in it by myself as well. And it was only when I realized that this business and kind of making your own money and property was a thing that I realized that this is actually the option for me. And I wanted to be a well-rounded person. My first 6 months of medicine, from September 2020 to I think it was March 2021, absolutely grueling. I had fun with friends and that, but like the studying, and I didn't enjoy it at all. So yeah.
And you enjoyed the business more. So tell us about getting started in rent to rent. What were you just gung-ho from the start? I speak to lots of people who were kind of cautious about getting started or a bit nervous. And I speak to other people who just been gung-ho from the start. What was it like for you getting started?
For me, when I started, so I was 18 when I started the company in June 2019. I had no fear. I had nothing to lose. I was really, really hungry for success. I wanted to make money. As soon as I watched a few videos and did a bit of networking, this is around January 2019, by the way, before June 2019 when I started my company. So as soon as I just watched a few videos, did a few networking events, met some people, I just took a decision to do a gap year. Didn't tell any of my family. I just took it. So there was no questioning in my mind. I just wanted to do it, and I just went for it. Really. Yeah, I think obviously if you're a bit older, you have a family, you have kids, and it's a bit different because you've got a job and that. For me, because I had nothing to lose, it didn't require that much for.
Yeah, well, that's so inspiring to hear. But what did you actually do first of all? Because there's lots of different ways to get started to find those first properties. What did you choose as your way to find properties?
Everything. Initially, so my first deal was in July 2019 was my first deal. That was through landlord letters. I then started calling agents later on, and I found out about all the other methods like Facebook ads and walking around your area and asking the builders for numbers for landlords, and there's so many other ways. So everything really. But I think initially, because, and this is actually one of the biggest challenges I had, because I didn't have a guarantor, I had zero income. I couldn't even rent a house. Forget about HMO. A HMO costs thousands of pounds. A month to rent, you need like 36 times the monthly income and all that. So that's why I was initially doing landlord letters. I then moved on to agents after that.
Yeah. So that's a great point that you make there about you didn't have income, you didn't have a guarantor at the time. So how did you get over it? So you were doing landlord letters. Let's just explain to people, because landlords don't usually require referencing, whereas agents do. So when you got that first landlord, and there you are, you've sent the letter, the landlord's called you, I'm guessing. You're 18. You meet the landlord. How do you have the confidence to be able to seal the deal?
So when I went into this landlord meeting, I wasn't completely oblivious. I had some training. I did have a previous mentor, who, looking back, I'll be honest, wasn't the best, but I'm not going to say any names. But it did give me that basic understanding of how to communicate and kind of know what the strategy was and explain the benefits, guaranteed rent, all of that. This landlord was he had so many properties, he wasn't even bothered. He just wanted it rented out. He didn't ask about my age. I came up I came to the viewing in a suit because I was just so like, oh my God, I need to get this deal. So I looked a bit more mature. And although I was a bit nervous, I feel like I presented myself well. And after the viewing, sent off by email, got accepted, contract signed. And that's how I did my first deal. Yeah. So
wow,
he didn't ask too many questions. Actually, he was quite easygoing landlord. He found out I was 18 after that, but by then I rented rooms and I was cash flowing, and he was getting his rent paid. So he was like, you know what, I don't care. You're paying my rent, and I'm fine with it.
How did that come to light?
So it's just when you initially get a property from a landlord, you rent the rooms, and you might meet them again. You might get to know them a bit. And better. So I met this. He lived locally, he lived very, very close to me. So we just got to know each other a bit. I was asking questions about how he invested in his stuff, and he was asking questions about me. And
yeah. No, I think when you're delivering results, obviously people are all in. So you got that first deal, and that gave you the confidence. And I'd love to talk about, how did you go from there to working with landlords, working with letting agents, because again, you then need to pass referencing, you haven't got an income. Oh, well, let's just talk about how you got the first one when you haven't got an income, because you needed to pay the first month's rent. Or did you pay the first month's rent at the end of the period rather than the beginning?
So I don't pay deposits. I don't pay for the first month's rent. I got a rent-free period. If about this one was 1 month rent-free period, 4 weeks, 1 month. So I used that money from the tenants to then pay the rent. I was looking to get 1 month, rent-free period, as I was, taught to ask for, just to kind of, I didn't even do refurbishment to the property. I put some beddings on, like 40 quid beddings, and I took some pictures on my phone, and I got a bit lucky already on the first one then. But yeah, so I didn't put anything up front. This is a very low cost deal, very, very low cost.
Yeah, they are out there, because people do really worry about both the refurbishment and the upfront costs. So you did that first deal, and then you move on to letting agents. So let's talk about that. How did you overcome those hurdles when you're working with letting agents?
So my second deal didn't come about until 6 months later. It was January. I still remember it was January 2020, just before all this pandemic stuff happened. It was crazy. So it was January 2020. And that was through an agent. So between June 2019 and January 2020, I was just banging the phones. I was calling agents. I was really trying, but it was really, really bad. Like, it wasn't working out. Whenever I did get offer accepted, it's as soon as I came to the office and they did a bit of referencing on me, it was like no, and I couldn't get a guarantor. I was asking about everyone, and the problem with getting a guarantor is like they'll always want something back, like half of the rent, half of the monthly cash flow, and I wasn't prepared to do that. So I just hit the phones for 6 months until January 2020. I had a jackpot. It was a really nice letting agent. I was really honest and upfront with him as the manager of a letting agent, and he had his property is fully refurbished. And the way I did it was I started negotiations on the property in November, and I didn't get the deal until January. And because I was actually competing against, I think it was crazy. It was like 5 or 6 other rent operators at the time. Like I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know there was that many renters in Newcastle. But apparently there is. So I was like, okay, these guys are all offering higher rents than me. I was offering the lowest rent. They were all offering higher rents, and they had the checks and all that. But I kept following up with the agent every week. I met him a lot of times, and I tried to find out what was his issue. Like, what's his problem? Like, how can I kind of help him? So I kept reminding him about the company-led fee, yes, I know it's going to be my first deal, but I'm going to make it work. I'm hungry for this. And one of the problems I could help him was that he had an issue with landlords, in that the landlord, whenever like a repair happened, the agent would have to pay for the repair, and the landlord didn't pay him back until like weeks later. So there's lots of roof leaks costing hundreds of thousands of pounds, and it was affecting the cash flow because it wasn't the biggest agent. So I was like, okay, I can help you there. Next time that happens, I'll just pay for it out of my pocket, and I'll wait until the landlord pays me back. And that was a huge relief because it was such a big. And keep in mind, I didn't even, if £1,000 roof leak happened, I didn't have too much cash flow. That would wipe out a lot of my funds back then, But I knew I could make it work. I just told him that, and it kind of like shined a little light bulb in him. And then I think from there, we just signed a contract really, and we got going. Didn't do any referencing checks. He actually sent me the referencing form. I said, no, because our company isn't 2 years old, so your referencing software, it won't work on us. You can have some of my business bank statements to show I've got some funds in that, and yeah, it worked out.
Brilliant. That's phenomenally good advice, because what you're saying there is they actually overlook people who may be on paper better, i.e. people who've got the income, or maybe the guarantors, or they've been in business longer. But he chose you because you were in touch every week. And then
just one thing, I've said a lot there, I don't want to confuse people. So the one thing that made it work was the relationship with the agent. That's the whole thing. The relationship with the agent, I built that up well, and my relationship with him was better than the other renter operators who would put the offer in and forget about it. I put the offer in, and I was visiting every week with donuts.
Yeah. And the other thing that you did that's really important to this as well, not only that you kept in touch every week, but you were looking for how can you be of service. And in this case, you hit the jackpot when you listened and you heard that he was having difficulty with this cash flow issue, because when the repairs were made and the agent paid, he was waiting a long time for the landlord to reimburse, and you decided to take that on. So I think there's so much power in building up those relationships, getting to know people, and B, into really listening to what people want and being able to solve those problems. So you managed to get your second deal, still starting off from nothing. You kept going. That's another thing, persistence over 6 months. And I'm sure, or were there times in that 6 months where you thought, this isn't going to work, I'm never going to get it, I can't pass referencing?
Yeah, so those 6 months, I think, like, it was very painful, those 6 months, because I was in a gap year. All my friends are at uni. I didn't have too many people to hang out with, but I knew I had to make this work. I was really passionate about it. So I think those 6 months, I grew as a person like crazy. Like when I got my second deal, after that 6 months, I was like a completely different person, completely different mindset. I was not giving up at all. I was going to go 110%. So although it's, in order to grow, you'll feel pain. And although it was painful for 6 months, I grew a lot. And yeah, so very happy about that.
Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. So tell us a little bit about the refurbishment on that second one. How did that go over?
So my second one was my first deal where I had to raise investor finance, because this wasn't like my first one. My first deal had the furniture and everything ready, and I just put a few blanks on, took pictures. So it was really low money. This second deal, I had to buy all the furniture for all the 6 bedrooms. So the total put in for this one was, I think it was like £4,500. It was, I think. And I had to raise finance for this. I had a bit of money from the cash flow from my first deal, because I was making me £500, so I used a bit of that. And then I raised £3,000 to fund that second deal. So using that £3,000 combined with a bit of my money, I then bought all the furniture and just decorations, a few pictures on the walls and that. Hired a professional photographer, which I didn't do the last time. This time I did it, and the pictures came out amazing. So yeah, it was really fun. Yeah, I remember looking back, I had a really enjoyable experience. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another thing that people are often skeptical about. Will they be able to raise investor funds? And you're doing it both as a young person, which a lot of people feel nervous that if they're young, nobody will invest. But you did find that investment. So I'd love you to tell us a little bit more about how that worked.
The investors.
How you find the investors, how you approached it, all of that.
I read a lot of books just about property and that, and I kept hearing again and again, it's good to ask. So there's three types of, there's a family, there's a friends, and there's external investors, I like to say. Then there's like loans and credit cards and that, but I didn't do any of that. So I asked family and friends first because I knew them well, and I felt like, if I could explain it well to them and explain the business model, they would invest with me. So I just reached out to friends and family, just text here and there, Instagram message here and there. Didn't do any investor pack or anything like that. I probably should have, but I met up with a few family and friends as well, and I got quite a few no's, more than I expected. You kind of realize who your real friends when you do that. But then again, what friend at 18 or 19 is going to invest that many thousands of pounds in you. So, but eventually, I did get from a family member from that one, so that one worked out quite well.
And give us your approach. What were you saying to them?
Okay, so I was like, so when I signed the management agreement, I didn't have enough money to refurbish the property. So I had a 1 month rent-free period, and I needed to get this property fully refurbished and tenanted before that month, before the rent of like £1,300 was due. And so I was just like in a bit of like, I was put under pressure, and pressure makes diamonds. So the day after I signed the management agreement, I just sent out like 20 messages, texting that, and so a lot of them was just like, oh mate, I've got a second deal, I was doing a come around, viewing, do you want to have a look? And then at the viewing, I would then tell them about when they see the house, they're like, whoa, you've done all this. It was a grand house, a 6-bedroom house, fully refurbished on an amazing street. The house is there with like 300k, 400k. It was like, you've done this. This is crazy house. And well done. Then when they saw the house, I then asked them, actually, mate, I need a bit of help here. I don't have enough money to refurbish the furniture. I was wondering, can you help me out? I'll pay you back, of course. Once your property, once the tenant is cash flowing. After a bit of explaining about how it works, so I rented from the landlord, I rented to tenants, and that's how I got my initial investment.
Brilliant. And was it like a loan, or did they get a share of the profits?
That initial one was just it was just a loan.
Now, having gone through that process, the first time it was £3,000. Altogether, you've raised over £21,000. What tips would you give to people who are maybe starting off like you did without a lot of money to start off with? What tips would you give them for raising finance, Aslan?
You need to be obsessed about what you want. Like, I knew I needed to make it work, and I just really wanted to make it work. And so I was, I think one of the main things people, they get a bit scared about raising investor finance. I think asking investors for money. But you gotta remove that fear, really, and just try and ask your family and friends first, and then move on to external investors. I think that's a good tip. Yeah.
Brilliant. And now, Aslan, you've got six properties altogether. Tell us a little bit about your business now and the cash flow you get from it.
Yeah. So so from January 2020 to January 2021, I did 6 HMO deals, the ones I have now. That first initial deal, after a year, I let that one go. It was £500 cash flow, 4-bedroom flat, 1 bathroom. It wasn't for me. So I've got 6 deals now, and total cash flow like before tax is around like 4,500, 4,700, and that's before tax, of course, and also a few maintenance costs because some properties do go a bit of maintenance as well. And yeah, it's been amazing. And what a big surprise I found out about is that like once you get the deal and then you're refurbishing tenants, then there's the management. And this past 6 months especially, I've been really learning about systems for management and making it easier for myself. Getting a viewing assistant, I'm slowly moving on to offer management software now as well. Kind of learning about HMO licensing and all the certificates I needed, because, oh my God, I did not know about enough of this. My first deal, I didn't even give electric report, gas report. I did it so wrong, like illegally, almost, like it's crazy. But you learn, So now I know perfect. I got my head around the legislation exactly, 100%. So now I know everything. So I think I kind of wrapped it up like a business and then systemized it to a point. And now I'm ready to. I'm now ready to take on more deals. I'm looking for more. My target's like 20. I want 20 HMOs, get a full-time member of staff in there. That's the goal.
That's fantastic. And I know that you have a mentoring program helping people to get started with rent to rent. And what advice would you give to people who are just listening and maybe thinking, oh, I'd like to get started, but I feel a little bit scared, or I'm worried I don't have enough money? What advice would you give to people about getting started?
Okay, so there's a money issue and the mindset issue. So the mindset issue about being scared. I mean, I think it's hard really, because it depends who you are as a person. You're always going to be scared when you're starting a business, in my opinion, or starting rent to rent, because it's just new, and especially if you've had a job all your life and you haven't had any business experience, of course you're going to be scared. But you have to do it. Honestly, you don't want to not do it and then like have regrets on your deathbed. That's how I think about it. Like regret is like a really bad feeling. So you got to figure out everyone else's opinions, and you just got to go for it. Because even if you fail, like you quit and you fail, you still learn from it anyway. Like, so starting a business is a different thing. You're not in a job. It's like you got to be like so resilient, because like issues happen all the time, and it's your responsibility. Like at the moment, I have my own income. I've just quit medicine, right? If I don't keep on top of it every day, the whole thing can go bust. Honestly, it can happen like in a few months. Hopefully not, but you gotta. I'm okay with that, because I'm quite resilient. I know I can pivot, I can adapt. So yeah, you just gotta do it. And the money issue, rent, you need money. It's low money, but you need money. And I'll give you a bit of exact figure. I feel like if you have, forgetting about loans and external finance and investors, if you don't want to do any of that, if you just want to do it yourself, kind of, I'd say about 7,000 to 10,000. You want enough for refurbishing a property, enough for the startup costs, and also a bit more for a mentor as well. So I'll say 7,000 to 10,000, 10,000 ideally. Then that'll be quite good, because it covers the mentorship, covers setting up, and covers 1 or 2 refurbishments. Yeah,
that's great advice. I think it kind of depends, because some people start even though they've only got maybe 2,000 or 3,000, and then they keep adding like you did. They add by finding investor finance, or they add by taking out a loan, or they add by using their overdraft, or they add by, remember I had Troy Balladue and Kaylee Pritchett on, and they actually did it by a bounce back loan. So they had some money and they used it up, but it wasn't as much as what you're saying. And then the bounce back loans came, and nobody knew that was going to happen. So I think even for people with a smaller amount of money, if they're ready to get started, and they're ready, if they've got the commitment like you have and the mindset, then the money is actually easier to find than you think. And you can find it as you go. And once people see that you're doing it, then they're happy to come in with you. Like, it would have been difficult for someone to give you £3,000 before you'd started, because you were thinking about starting. But once you've started and you've got the property and they can see that you're doing it and you know what you're doing, then people will come in. So I think for some people, they can start with much less and be successful, like you were. And that's great.
Yeah, go on, sir.
Carry on.
Yeah, you can start development with no money, buy refugee finance no money. Like, you can start anything with no money. It's just about being resourceful. If you're a good communicator, good persuasion skills, and just like find the right people. It's all about finding the right people, Then as long as you can bring someone to the table, like knowledge or something, maybe it's not money, but anything else, then you can honestly build a house in a few months' time. It'll take a long time, yes. You won't make any money for like a year, of course, yes, but it's crazy what you can do if you put your mind to it, honestly.
Yeah. So tell us about your vision for the future.
For the future, so as I mentioned, I just want to get more HMOs. So I'm just looking for more at the moment. Want to get up to 20, get full-time member staff in there. I think running parallel to that, I want to try a different strategy out as well. At the moment, I'm looking at property development, and by development I mean personally for me as well as buying land and building houses, mainly new builds for first-time buyers. And just the reason why is my thinking is that if I've got the rents for the cash flow, I'm happy there. I've got a cash flow coming in. And then the developments is a much more longer term plan where the big chunks of cash come in, where the real wealth is, and the way I think is that sometimes like buying a property to then convert to HMO or commercial to resi project. I think you're involved in a couple of commercial residential projects as well. It's like it requires the same amount of kind of effort or thinking just as doing one development project. And one development project can make you anywhere from 6 to 7 figures. Most of the time it's minimum 100K, 250K profit, even more depending. So why not put my effort into that and get one project and then make a massive amount, which is equivalent to like 2, 3, or 4 or 5 like flips or something. That's the way I see it. And of course, it's so long term. Like I might, first of all, I'll probably spend the first 3-6 months educating myself. Next 6 months, find a deal. The next year or year and a half, planning and building and all that. So it's more. I'll be probably 22 before I even feel any real money. But I'm willing to do it. So I'll have the rent for the cash flow, and maybe I might buy a bike one day. We'll see. But if you know what I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. I think most people that we speak to on the show who have a rent-to-rent business also have that vision as well to certainly buy their own investment properties, and for some people like you as well to go into developments. And did you say more that new builds than conversions? Is that what you're thinking, or?
Yeah, I'm thinking, just buying land and then building on top of it, really. But conversions, it depends really. I'm open to it. I'm open to all forms of development, but ideally, land and then new builds for me.
Brilliant. And is there anything that you would have loved to have shared today that I've not asked you about that you want to talk about before we draw it to a close?
I think, if anyone's really needing help, I'm on Instagram, Aslan Rahman. I'm on Facebook as well. Like I do calls every week, like for free, by the way. I don't 10-minute, 5-minute calls. Even video calls, is helping people out, helping people start, because a lot of people when they start, they have a lot of negative thoughts, a lot of not much belief in themselves. Not everyone, but a lot of people do. And sometimes just a simple 10-minute call with someone who's done it, been there, and is younger than you as well. Honestly, can give you a push in the back to actually start. I personally know of a few people who, 6 months ago, I gave them a really, big talk, half an hour call, like just do it. And then now I've just got in contact with them a few months later. I'm like, whoa, you've got like 5 rent trends to peer, bro. How are you doing? Honestly, so a 30-minute call can change someone's life, if you do right. But just reach out to me. I'm happy to help.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, the Aslan Rahman on Instagram. And that's so important. Like you were saying that you had a mentor at the start, that can be so helpful in getting you started with the frameworks. And you've got tools and templates that work. You don't have to work everything out from scratch. So absolutely, having someone like you to be able to come to and talk to and get because the mindset is such a huge part of it. I think people don't appreciate how important that is, being around the right people and having the right mindset. Well, I just want to thank you, Aslan, for joining us today. It's been phenomenal speaking to you. And I want to thank you for watching and for listening. I think you'll agree that Aslan's story is phenomenal, what he's achieved at such a young age with such tenacity and such gusto. And he's really... I love the story about the letting agent and really having that persistence, building that relationship, but also having the insight to really listen to what the letting agent was looking for and be able to provide a solution that the other person wanted, because that's the secret to success in business and in life. So thank you so much for coming and sharing that with us today. And to you, we look forward to seeing you again next week. And in the meantime, remember, believe bigger, be bolder, be a game changer. See you soon. Bye for now.
Thank you.